Hey everybody, welcome back to the Chasing Dreams podcast with Charlie and Justin. Back for another episode. We are on episode 17, and we are in the midst of a pandemic across the United States. Well, I shouldn't say across the United States, across the entire world. Coronavirus has officially disrupted human life as we know it.
Yes, it has.
So that, we'll kind of get right into it. We're going to backtrack to the whole Corona fiasco here in a moment.
Yeah.
But looking at the topic that we wanted to discuss, at least for the first part today, was you had a mock trial run for a triathlon.
Yeah.
So your very first triathlon is in the books. It's not official, but it was as official as we could make it.
Yep.
Reason that we had to do a trial run and not the actual run, no pun intended, was because the one that we planned on doing next week, right?
Yeah, it was the 22nd.
Yeah, got shut down. So they put the clamps on that due to the coronavirus scare, obviously taking away large groups or large gatherings of people, which that would be considered one. So you, being the ambitious person that you were, or that you are, still wanted to do a trial run. So we did a mock try. So do you want to give, again, just for the listeners, I'm sure most of them aren't familiar with triathlons and exactly how they work. I know we've covered it before, but give some specifics as far as distances and that stuff goes.
Yeah, so basically this was a backwards sprint distance triathlon. So typical triathlons go swim, bike, run. This one is considered an indoor tri. It's backwards. They bike, run, and then swim.
Okay.
That just because they don't want you to destroy their equipment. Because if you swim first and then you get on the bike or you run on their treadmill, you're gonna, destroy their stuff being wet. So this one's backwards, and since we did it, this way, because I woke up, yesterday. So I got an email yesterday saying that this was going to be canceled. Well, not canceled, postponed. Because the Salem Community Center in Salem, Ohio, was closing down till April 6th. I was like, oh boy. So my brain went instantly to, future stuff that we have planned. Start a training block for a half marathon at the end of the summer. Pretty much was supposed to be directly after this indoor try. So I was like, wait a minute, I don't want to change my plans. I don't want to ride this taper down for too long and then actually do more damage or do more harm, than all the work was worth. So I called the local YMCA where I've been doing all my swimming and asked if they were closing, and they said no, not yet. And I was like, well, stay open tomorrow because I'm going to use your pool tomorrow. Yeah. And I got with Charlie and my wife and talked to my dad, who's my triathlon coach, and said I'm doing it, and here we are.
So we started off at the local gym where you and I both train at and I work at, and we did the spin there. And there was a lot more that went into the timing than I had originally thought. I knew that you would want timing for each event, but there was like split times for different mile markers for the bike and split times for different mile markers for the run, and then transition time like post bike pre-run and post run pre-swim.
Yep.
But then like different lap times. So we had a paper with like 20 different times. It seemed like if you're trying to look at all the split times for everything, and that's kind of a useful tool for you for training, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It was nice because having you to do all the stuff, write everything down. I didn't have to do it. Took a lot of the work out of it on my end. All I had to do was put the work in. I was kind of mindless. I pushed play on my watch, and here we go. And you guys did a great job too, because you took a lot of the information and made it to where I could look at it and see where I'm struggling.
Yeah. Yep. So we started off on the bike, like we said, and that was a 15 mile portion.
Yeah.
And then, do you have exact numbers on that?
Yeah, I got it. It's right here. The bike was 44 minutes and 18 seconds.
Well, I think we should preface this by saying that you were looking at 45 minutes or 46 minutes roughly for each of those three sections. So 45 minutes for the bike, 46 minutes for the run, and 46 minutes for the swim there.
Yeah, so my goal was to do the run in 45 minutes.
Yeah.
In my head, I thought honestly, I thought the bike was going to be about an hour and 15 minutes because in training, I had only done 15 plus, like 4 times in the last 3 months. Every training session's been about 12 miles.
Yeah.
And I've had multiple 60-mile weeks over the last 3 months, but having only done 15 miles 2 times, and they were both hour-long spins, and I was wrecked when I was done. I thought, I'm not going to go all out on the bike because then I won't be able to run. And because we took this run outside, because we ran from one gym to another, essentially.
Yeah.
Because it was, they're 4 miles apart, so we rode right up the road, and I took off on the run. I didn't want to burn my legs, and it's quite hilly too, the run portion. So I actually dialed it back a little, and here we are, 44 minutes, 18 seconds. I was really, really happy. I was pumped, actually.
Because beforehand you said you took the 45, 45, 45, put them together, and said that you wanted about 2 hours and 15 minutes, right? Which that was a realistic expectation or goal that you had.
Yeah.
Now that doesn't count transition time, which roughly that was estimated about 10 minutes in between.
Yeah, we planned this whole time, every transition training session I had, which was most of the last 3 weeks, every day, I had multi-sport training, where it would be bike run, swim, etc. Every transition time was always 10 minutes. So I planned, if I can do transition in 10 minutes, that's stretch, change, and get on to the next sport, I'll be happy because that's what I've been training for.
Yeah.
We actually knocked that clear down, and it was wild because the transition between the bike and the run was, I had to change my socks and shoes, and then we had to drive, like I said, like a mile and a half down the road before I could start, and I was on the run in 5 minutes and like 16 seconds.
Yeah, because there was just over 3 miles from where we did the gym that we did the spin at to the pool.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
So we had to drive a little bit where we had it marked off. So jumped off the spin bike, got in the car, drove right up real quick to the marker, and then ran the 3 miles to the pool.
Then. Yeah, and that run was fun. I underestimated the terrain a little bit, and the second mile of that run was tough. It was considerably hilly, and although uphill running is my favorite because it's easier on my knees and hip, the downhills they were steep, and there was a lot of them. So by the time I get to the hills where the uphills, the slight uphills, that I thought, man, I'm going to make some ground on these, I was wrecked and tired.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you made good time.
Yeah.
What was the overall for the run period?
41 minutes and 4 seconds.
Okay.
So, essentially I ran basically a 5K because we did 3.02 miles, so almost a 5K. And if you've been following along, my fastest 5K ever was 39, 38 or something. 39.
Sounds about right.
39 and some change. So I almost ran on par with my best time on 5Ks. So I was really happy with that because I was in, like we said, 45 minutes. I was pretty confident it was going to be 45 minutes to an hour.
Yep.
I wasn't sure if I was going to blow up on the run or not.
And then we got to the YMCA where we had the swim.
Yeah.
Literally ran in, and changed, and were ready to go.
Yeah.
And then the swim times.
That transition from the run to the swim was only 4 minutes and 7 seconds, which I was really happy with.
Yeah.
Because I thought taking my shoes and socks and shorts and shirt off, getting a drink of water, getting my swim cap and goggles and stuff out of my bag, and then hoping that nobody was in the pool. That was the thing, is I didn't have any way to reserve a lane. So I was nervous that there was going to be somebody in the lane, but there wasn't, so we were good. That swim was 10 minutes and 22 seconds to do the 500-yard swim.
Yeah.
That's like the fastest I've ever done it.
And that's off of a 15-mile bike and a 3-mile run, too.
Yeah.
So
I was really happy with the swim. I didn't, gas out at all, where I was like, form was compromised too much. I was tired and I was gasping on my breaths, but it was good. It felt good.
It seemed like you had a lot left in the tank too, which we kind of joked about afterwards.
Yeah.
Where some things were underestimated, and then, then you have to go back and analyze the data. That's why you record everything, not just the time of how long did it take me to do this whole thing, but then also where was I slowest at, where would I have time that I could have cut off, or where do I think I was able to give more? Because I said by looking at that bike, I thought maybe you could do the bike faster, but that's, again, in my expert or non-expert opinion, and you told me that you actually think that you would have kept the bike pace about the same and saved your legs a little bit more for the run, but then when you got to the run, tried to give a little bit more of a push at certain areas.
Yeah, literally, like when we were sitting there after I was done, we pushed stop on the watch and we're talking about the times. My wife asked, how I felt, what I felt like on that run, because she was nervous I wasn't going to finish the run, that I was going to end up walking most of it, and it was going to take forever. And in the back of my head, so was I.
Yeah.
But I said, the first thing I said was, I feel great. I wish I would have ran harder. I was a little nervous. My dad had said yesterday when I told him the plan, he said, no, do the run on the treadmill, play it safe, do it all in the same building. And I, this morning, decided, no, I'm not doing that. Made kind of a judgment call. I enjoy running outside, and I've been running this road this whole time.
Yep.
Rain, sleet, or snow, it doesn't matter. I've been running it every day. So I made the call. So I was going to live with the consequences, and I was worried. He said that he was afraid I was going to get hurt because I've been having a little bit of knee pain. But I was careful, and I paid attention, and I didn't blow up. That was the big thing. I didn't want to go out. I knew if I went out that first mile and did like an 11 or a 10-minute pace that I would blow up. And I didn't. So I kept it back. I think that first mile was like 12 and some change. And then the second mile was 13 something. So I managed to slow myself down enough that I didn't blow up at the end. So I was overall, I'm pretty happy with it.
And then what was your final time?
Final time was an hour 45 and 9 seconds.
So a half hour below the pace.
Yep.
Which is crazy to think about. I mean, 30 minutes is...
Yeah. That means, to me, that means I have a lot to do learning this sport and endurance sports in general, learning my body and learning how to control my pace, because I was just going off of training times.
Yeah.
Now, also, we didn't have a plan put together because the taper wasn't done. Originally, when me and my dad and you talked about this training block, it was we were going to do the training, and then 3 days beforehand, when it was into walking and really, really tapering everything back, we would put a plan together, and we were just going to race to the plan. Well, I didn't have that, so it was kind of just instinctive running and biking and swimming, I guess.
Yeah. Yep.
Essentially. So I don't know. I feel like all in all, I need to learn some more about endurance sports, but I was happy that I overestimated.
Yeah. So better to do that than the alternative.
It felt good. I'm a little bummed that I didn't get to do it with all the people that was training too. Because I did this particular race has its own training block where every Sunday you train with a group of people. It's supposed to build camaraderie and build the sport in this area, but I just, with my work schedule and my life, there's just not enough time to drive up to Salem every Sunday. So we decided to sign up for the event only, not the training, and do the training on my own. So it's been fun though. I'm definitely happy I picked endurance sports.
Now there are plans to reschedule tentatively, but I mean the likelihood of that happening is up in the air right now.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they sent an email today actually saying that they are going to reschedule, and they're going to do as much as they can as far as keeping everybody that's following their training. They want to keep them in shape, so they're going to keep giving free training. stuff you can do outside to keep your body in peak shape,
Yep.
so to speak. And I told them, so I talked to the people, and they were all excited about it, and I told them that if my training, permits it, I'm gonna still compete in the event, but otherwise, I had to get it done.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and it seems like the training portion would probably be the most important as far as the delay goes, because it's you have this goal in mind, not you, but everybody that plans, and you have it peaked for a specific time.
Right.
And when that time gets pushed back, I mean, it would be comparable to like doing a bodybuilding show, where like when people see stage pictures and they say, "Oh, I wouldn't look like don't want to look like that." It's like, well, you only look like that for literally probably. I mean, if you peak it perfectly, you're looking like that for 15 minutes to a half hour, and then you don't look like that. Yeah, it changes. So anytime you have a peaking protocol for something specific, whether it's endurance sport or a physique sport or any type of sport, and then it gets pushed back, it kind of throws you off a lot. So it was nice to go and get that trial run in, even though peaking wasn't ideal. It was still something that you, I should say, because you were the one who planned it out, gave yourself the best opportunity and the best look for what we had going on.
It was fun, man, and I keep taking this from like everything we were doing, even if it's lifting weights or dieting or training in general. Every time that we do something, or I get out there and I run a race, or I do a race that I was worried about and I do it, it makes me think of somebody else trying to lose weight or do these things too. You know what I mean? Like, I keep coming back to that. Like, I want somebody to say, wow, this guy did that. That's crazy. I want to do it. And then actually just follow through and do it. Like, that's all it is I said I wanted to do it, and it's follow through. Mm-hmm. So I really, really suggest everybody pick a goal and do it.
Yep.
So, yeah.
So moving on from that, we talked about how we would come back to it. The coronavirus, COVID-19, is completely screwing up everything in the world right now.
Yeah, it is.
So, I don't want this to be an informational session as far as the coronavirus, because I think that anybody who claims to be an expert on it is largely speaking in fallacy, because that's the issue. Is
experts aren't experts.
Yeah, no one is an issue on this, which is part of the problem, or the main problem is that it's spreading. Even the origins of it are unknown. It's animal-based, from what I'm reading. That it comes from animals, we're not really sure. I mean, originally I heard bats, and there's been a couple of other different animals that were thrown out there as potential starting grounds, or whatever you would call it, for it. Right. I don't need to go into detail about it, because everybody knows about it. So everything's shut down. Like, our state wrestling tournament was postponed. At best postponed. This weekend we were supposed to be on our way to Columbus, and unfortunately that is not the case.
I actually heard West Branch's girls were warming up for the basketball finals.
Yep, state championships were some of the girls for the tournament were warming up and got called off the court.
Away.
Yep.
I mean, even like in my head, I'm like, wait a minute. At that point, they're already got the virus. If that's the case, if this is what we're worried about, everybody's been there for an hour. Let them play.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But to me, I think they went a little overboard. Once you get to the point where the girls are warming up, how can you take it from them?
And the most insane thing with this is, it's like everything political or religious or sports related or ethical, whatever it is. There's so much polarity on what people think.
Yeah. And
you have these extremists on both ends. Some people say it's a hoax and it's getting overblown by the media, and we need not stress about it at all. And then you have the other people that are going into the panic buying and buying 20 years worth of toilet paper and supplies because they're freaking out, thinking that this is the end of the world.
Yep.
And then naturally, for me personally, I find myself somewhere in between.
Right.
So again, I don't want to speak to what I think we should or shouldn't be doing, because truthfully I don't know, and I guess I'm naive and letting other people make those decisions for us, but I think that the other people that are making those decisions are a little bit more qualified, than myself. Like, for example, teaching in Ohio, all Ohio schools, and I know that this is kind of happening across the country now, all Ohio schools are shut down for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So Friday, which was yesterday, was our last day. The kids will have an extended spring break and won't be back for 3 weeks. Now, I've tried to make myself resourceful in gaining as much knowledge as I could, and I don't mean knowledge as in watching CNN or Fox News. Like, I'm talking knowledge of talking to people that are, either medical experts that may be able to provide some insights, or other people that work in the government, or people that are highly connected. And even there, you see both ends.
Yeah.
Some people say, yeah, we should absolutely be freaking out about this, and other people that say we need to take precautions, but, it's nothing to stress over. So I don't really know. It's definitely unprecedented. I mean, people have talked to me at work and said, we haven't seen anything like this since 9/11. And I don't think 9/11 was like this.
No,
I mean, 9/11 was certainly tragic. I'm not underplaying 9/11, but as far as how it altered daily life, it was not to this extreme.
It's kind of sad that we didn't react the way we are to this for 9/11.
Yeah. I think that the big underlying issue here, at least that I see, is that this shows vulnerability from a systematic approach. Right. Like, if something tragic were to happen, I'm not saying that this is not tragic, but if something like a borderline catastrophic were to happen, you can see that humanity is not prepared to handle that, and our infrastructure is not prepared to handle that. I mean, we have people fighting over toilet paper, for crying out loud, which there's other methods to take care of that issue than just toilet paper. But I think a lot of it too is sheep mentality. You see people buying and stocking up on things, so it's almost like, oh my gosh, I should be doing this too. Like, I have to go right now and do it. They don't think, they just are very reactionary based on what everybody else is doing.
Right.
So again, naturally, I find myself in between on this. I don't think it's worth panicking over, in the sense of like freaking out thinking that everybody's going to die. But I think that all the precautions, as extreme as they may seem, I think they're legitimately in place. Like, I think that they're warranted right now. Because the only way to get this to go away is to stop spreading it, obviously, because we don't have a vaccination, or we don't have any treatments or cures. So I think that the shutdown of like school systems and large sporting events, obviously, be it unprecedented, I think it's necessary, because that's the only way we're going to stop it. And I think that this is the first time that I've seen us as a nation, be very, very proactive and not reactive. Obviously, we're reacting to other countries, but people are throwing out statistics online saying, oh, there's only been this many cases in the United States. Yeah, well, number one, testing is a joke in and of itself. I mean, we've had very few tests from what I understand and what I'm told. So this could be out there beyond anything conceivable. Governor DeWine, or governor of Ohio, came out and he said that they're estimating, based on community spread statistics and analytics, that they think that 100,000 Ohioans just in Ohio have it.
Right.
So you could look at that one or two ways. You could look at that as, oh, well, this is a good thing because it's out there so much more, and it's not as prevalent as far as the death toll as people think, because a lot more people have this. Or you could say, oh, a lot of people are getting this, and then that death toll is going to go through the roof.
Right.
It's definitely unlike anything we've ever seen before.
Yeah. And then with that 100,000 statistic, do we really all think that those are 100,000 people that are in single-family households, like single-person households?
Yeah.
So if there's 100,000 single people, there's probably 100,000 families. If we're talking about what ifs.
And I've heard everything on this. I've heard, the government put it in play to help alleviate some of the baby boomer Social Security concerns. I've heard that this has been in the U.S. for a long time, and we're just now becoming cognizant of it. I mean, granted, I did evidently test positive for the influenza B, which is one of the flu strains. And I'm not suggesting anything other than like the anecdotes that I'm providing to you. But when I had that, it crushed me. Like, absolutely. I mean, my temperature was upwards of 103, did not go down at all for several days. Legitimately, probably the closest I've ever felt to actually thinking that I was going to die. I mean, it was horrid. Was bedridden in the truest sense. Like, I physically could not get out of bed for 3 days because I felt so miserable. Only went to go to the bathroom a couple times. And the reason I only had to go to the bathroom a couple times is because I couldn't eat anything. was coughing, not a horrific cough, but definitely a bad one, congested beyond anything humanly imaginable, and all this stuff. And I went to the doctors finally after 3 days once I was physically able to get out of bed, and they ran a test and said, oh, it's influenza B. And I said, oh, my goodness, what does that mean? Because I wasn't too aware of the different flu strains and stuff. And they said, oh, don't worry, that's the good one. I said, there's no way that's what I have then. I said, I'm not being dismissive of your testing because you guys are evidently the pros on this, but there's no way that this is the good one.
Right.
Like, because I literally feel like I am going to die right now. And I've had some people that have said, they experience very, very, very similar symptoms to the coronavirus, and they think that they may have potentially already had it and just been done with it by this point, which, again, there's so much unknown that, like, you can't really be dismissive over any of these, like, theories because all of them could be possible.
Right.
Any of them could be. You don't really know. And I think that's why everybody's in such an uproar is the fear of the unknown.
Right.
We don't really know what this is, where it's coming from. Apparently they were able to isolate it, though, and begin testing on some possible treatments and cures in Canada and China, amongst other countries. So, I don't know. I'm optimistically thinking that this will be dealt with because in a non-catastrophic manner, because I think that we're taking the right precautions to end everything. Like the NCAA tournament's gone, and wrestling, all high school winter sports are over.
Yeah.
Spring sports are not getting started; they're done. Schools are closed. College sports are done. I mean, I was looking at even the NFL teams. Like, this is scouting time. Where you're going to pro days and looking forward to the draft, and they're calling all their employees off the road and stuff to come back. I don't know if this is going to be as big of a shutdown as people say. I mean, and obviously that's what we're trying to avoid. We're trying to avoid a complete shutdown, the quarantine state, where by not having these enormous social gatherings, and I think that the governor of Ohio put it, what did he say, like no more than 100 or something, or
I can't
200 maybe.
I've heard different things. I've heard 200, I've heard 150, I've heard 25.
But then ironically, everybody goes to the grocery store and hoards to get toilet paper.
Right, and then you see on Snapchat people, Snapchat stories of St. Patty's Day parties.
Yeah.
It's insane. It's like, wait a minute, people. Even if you don't believe it, you don't have any fear at all.
Yeah, and I have people like that.
Yeah.
I have talked to people that think that this is absolutely ridiculous and absurd. And here's the thing: is they say, oh well, the one thing that I've heard is that the statistics of fatalities are heavily in favor. Well, I should say not in favor because they're the ones dying, but heavily skewed towards the elderly.
Yeah.
And these people that have these comorbidities or risks, like risk factors to begin with, like smokers or people that are on ventilation already, like definitely the older populace. But what I think is, like, these people are, just saying, well, I'm not going to be that affected. If I do get it, I'll probably get sick, and then I should be able to fight it off. First of all, should be able to fight it off is not a risk that I'm really willing to take.
I'm not okay with that.
But then also, don't you feel like you have
A
a moral obligation, or an ethical obligation to not just go spread it around just because, I'll be fine, but X amount of people may die.
Yeah, people are not thinking about grandma.
Yeah.
Grandma lives at home with me.
Yep.
So
that was my first thought because, my grandma, who's 90, and she is the pinnacle of health, at least what you could consider the pinnacle of health to be for someone who's 90 years old.
But she's still 90.
Yeah, and she just moved out, sold her place, and now she is staying with different family members just to try to, spend as much time with family as she can. And she's completely able-bodied, completely capable of living on her own, but just doesn't want that, or my family doesn't want that anymore.
Right.
So right now she's currently staying with my parents. And my first thought was, I texted my mom and dad or talked to them and said, hey, just, make sure that grandma's okay. But if my mom and dad get it, then grandma's obviously going to be in contact with it. And who knows if a 90-year-old's able to fight it off. I would guess probably not.
Right. I mean, that's what the statistics are saying, that, 60 and older don't stand a huge chance, and from what I'm reading anyways. And if she, God forbid, were to get a cold, or anybody.
Yeah,
just
yeah,
anybody. I mean, it's not just our particular relatives. I think about, at my job, I have a few drivers that work with me that are over 75 years old. 73 and 76, I believe, are two of the oldest people I drive with. Now, shake hands with them every day. I could probably beat this. Could they? I mean, sometimes they call off when it's cold.
And again, I don't put a lot of stake in the word should, especially when it comes to life or death. Like,
Right.
oh, you should live. Like, hey, that's not, I don't have a lot of confidence in that. And then, when you look at the statistics, like, listen, statistics in anything are able to be skewed for propaganda purposes in both extremes. You could make statistics say whatever you want. In sports, you could make one person, this particular player, you can make him look like the greatest player of all time, or you can make him look like basically the worst player of all time, depending on what statistics, or accomplishments you put out there. So, like, when they say, oh, well, the flu kills a lot more people, yeah, well, number one, the flu has been around forever. And even if you take it, like, annually, like, oh, the flu kills this many people per year, yeah, but the prevalence is so much higher. Or at least now.
Yeah.
But at the rate this is spreading, and like even when you give just coronavirus, COVID-19 statistics, people are saying, and again, this is, you read different sources, you get different numbers, because obviously there's so much going on right now that we don't have definitive exact numbers. But you're looking at even upwards of like a 5%, mortality rate or fatality rate, where people are dying. 5% of the people that get it are dying. And I've had people say, oh, only 5% of the people are dying. And only 5%, I mean, that's outrageous. It's completely absurd to think that 5% is okay.
Yeah.
Like 5% definitely does not seem like anything that I would put confidence in. So...
Well, and then we talk about statistics, and we're getting most of our numbers because the biggest area, right, as far as I know, is in Asia and China.
Well, yeah, that's apparently they believe that has started in Wuhan, in the market, and then now they're talking about finding a source of it. Was it bat? Was it something in the food sources?
Right.
I don't know, and I don't think anybody knows right now. I think it's the pangolin. Is that how you say it? It's the armadillo-looking thing. I'm not a zoologist, but they think that the scales are used in ancient Chinese medicine, and they're very highly sought after in Asian countries because they eat the meat there. They think that there's genetic similarities or commonalities that are highly, highly close to us. You see some studies that are saying that's almost a certainty that's where it came from, and then others saying no, it's not even close to where it came from. So.
Right.
I don't even know.
I just have a hard time believing statistics coming from I don't even know if they're still considered communist nation, but China's communism. Mm-hmm. They control what information they put out. As to where like the United States, we are free. We can say whatever we want. Free media, yeah. We post and say. That's kind of the problem we have though. Also, is the media just can do whatever they want to do.
Yeah, and then I think that you would be foolish and naive if you didn't allude to like political agendas. Yeah. Not that I'm necessarily saying that this was a political
stunt.
Yeah, or something like I'm not suggesting that it was a conspiracy, like it's a conspiracy theory that we should be looking into. Although I think that if you think that warrants discussion or looking into, then by all means do so.
Right.
But I think that. And I'm talking in regards to the media. The media is going to skew things. Like if you watch Fox News and you watch CNN, they're going to paint completely different pictures of how this is being handled, of course. And that's why, like I said, I tried reaching out to people that I would consider to be authorities on this, or at least the closest. Like, for example, one of the people that I have spoken with is a former CEO, multi-millionaire, billionaire, probably, who is very well connected with doctors across the world, and I spoke with him. In his words, I'm not going to put his name out there for privacy reasons, but in his estimation, he said this fiasco will be over in 8 weeks, at least in the United States. Now, there's two ways you could look at that. 8 weeks is a long time, but is it a cataclysmic event that's going to end the United States in 8 weeks? No.
sure. I can tell you, if I was out of work for 8 weeks because of this, it's going to be hard for the next 56 weeks.
And that's where we really get into the biggest issue is, let's take me, for example. My situation is not bad because I am a teacher.
You're catching a paycheck.
And my paycheck, I'm salaried.
Yep.
And my salary is going to get paid regardless of if we are in school or not because I get paid over summers. So every 2 weeks I'm getting a paycheck, so I have absolutely nothing to worry about. And then all of my online clients, I'm just going under the assumption that they're not going to stop coaching services, so there's extra financial benefits there. And then you look at even like training clients at the gym. Maybe that'll slow down a little bit just for fear of going into public places. I don't really know. But even if those two financial avenues are completely dried up, which they very well may, let's assume that they are, I'm still getting enough money to where I can live.
Survive.
It's not going to be necessarily comfortable, and it's going to be paycheck to paycheck, but I'm going to have food, I'm going to have a place to live, and I'm going to be okay.
Right.
Where you run into issues is people who don't have childcare services, because that was my main thing, is if they're canceling school, and I have a lot of kids in my class in my school that I worry about, that go home to like lives that are much worse, and they're much worse off being at home than they are being at school. And just from an environmental standpoint, from a health standpoint, from a food and electricity and running water standpoint, so I worry about that. My first thought was, what are these kids going to do now that they're home? Because some of them, honest to goodness, the only 2 meals they may get are the free breakfast at school and the free lunch at school. And then they may eat, maybe a snack. And I know that it sounds like I'm embellishing here, but I'm not. Like, I'm not speaking in hyperbole. Like, these kids actually go home to poverty, some of them. So you worry about that. And then you worry about childcare. That was where okay, so let's say my job is put on hold, which it is. And they put other job on hold, like grocery store clerks or bank tellers or policemen. Obviously, they won't be off work, but whomever. I mean, I'm just throwing out random occupations there. Do they have the same luxury of getting paid during this that I do? No. And then some people may want to be off work because they have nobody to watch their kids, and then you're torn. Do I choose work or do I choose children? I mean, it's...
Right. I mean, it's hard because if you have little ones, it's not ethical to leave them at home by themselves.
Yeah.
If they're too little.
Yeah.
Or if, your kids are out of control and they're 15 years old, you still don't want to leave them at home by themselves, So
I know some adults that probably shouldn't be left alone, but...
I know I shouldn't be left alone. I'm sorry, Charlie. No. But, so, yeah.
There's so many different issues
problem.
here.
That's
so many different issues here. Like, there are so many logistical problems that we're running into as a country that I think that, now please, I'm never ever going to say that something this tragic and has killed this many people is a good thing. I'm not.
No.
Because if it was my family that was dying, obviously, I wouldn't suggest that, nor if anybody's dying would I suggest that. But what I'm saying is there are silver linings to this. You can take away at least some positives and look at it and say, okay, this gives us maybe a wake-up call of...
We need to get better.
Yeah, we need to get better on how exactly. The other thing that I thought of, and I hope that I don't sound like, I'm hoping for euphoria here, or like, something to be rainbows and sunshine when it isn't. But I wonder if this is an opportunity for mankind to come together and humanity to say, like, hey, listen, if something so silly as this, or something so small as, like, a tiny virus is going to wipe us out, like, maybe we need to get stronger together and fight this.
Yeah.
I kind of think that it's analogous to 9/11 in the sense that, like, remember that huge sense of patriotism came after that? Like, it was unreal.
It was.
And even now, I don't think that has completely gone away. Mm-hmm. Like, I think our sense of patriotism was forever changed since 9/11.
I agree.
And I wasn't around for the world wars to get a sense for, like, what that was like, but I assume that it would probably be comparable. But I wonder if maybe this is an opportunity for the entire world in mankind to come together and say, hey, maybe we need to work together for issues like this.
It's almost like in this country, every couple decades, mankind reunites through tragedy.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but that's how life works. They give you the test, before the lesson.
Yeah.
So, It's not like school where you get the lesson, then you get the test, like gives you the test, and then you learn the lesson from it afterwards. So it's a shame that we have to learn this way, but that's kind of how it is.
It is.
And I think that hopefully there are some positives to come of this. And it'll be interesting as we give these podcasts over the next several weeks to kind of see what our thoughts are on this.
Yeah, because rest assured that there is no chance that we're going to stop.
Yeah. Yep.
Because we made an obligation to you guys.
And if I get the coronavirus, I'll just wear a mask, and hopefully you don't catch it as well, or vice versa.
Oh, I mean, yeah.
But anyway, let's do this before we finish up here, because we're approaching 45 minutes. Let's talk about maybe some advice for the coronavirus. Now,
in the gym.
Again, in the gym, not speaking towards any type of, because I mean, pretty much all the information is out there. It's weird because everything that they've been recommending is pretty much
normal
things that we should have been doing forever. Yeah, washing your hands. Like,
don't touch your face when you touch somebody else's thing.
Washing your hands after going to the bathroom. It's like, oh, well, no kidding. I thought we should do this all
idea.
along. Or so there's a couple things that you can do. Just normal gym etiquette and gym hygiene, wiping stuff down. This is something that should have been going on for a long time. I've heard rumors of different states closing down all gyms. I don't really know. All I know is the gyms that I work at and train at are open, and hopefully they remain open, and hopefully we can use some basic common sense and gym hygiene there. Wipe down equipment, even dumbbells. That's something that typically doesn't get wiped down. It's like we wipe down the machine we sit on, but if we use barbells or dumbbells, we don't really wipe down where we grip, which we probably should. And then you and I also spoke before the podcast about maybe doing some alternative training, even outside the gym. Let's say, oh my goodness, worse comes to worse, and gyms are shut down. Now what do we do?
You got to go for a run.
Yeah, you can do things outside. And I think that spending time in nature has some therapeutic benefits too.
Yeah.
I've kind of wisened up and gotten a little more, I don't know, some people may think it's a little bit more quacky with how the human body connects to nature and energy flow and energy exchange there. And I think that there are a lot of benefits to going out in nature and spending time with nature. Being grounded, being barefoot in nature, having your skin exposed to the sun, which it's March in Northeast Ohio, so not a whole lot of that.
Right. Luckily there was today.
Yeah, it's been nice lately. So you can do alternative training, either training outside or training at your own home. And then you mentioned, making it a deload.
Yeah. I mean, if I don't know a whole lot about the concept of a deload because I don't lift super heavy for a super long time yet, but I've done some research, and if, God forbid, the gym closes for 6 weeks or a month or whatever, use the time to really, really hone in on your diet and just use it as a deload. You can deload your muscles, you deload your mind, get centered with your family.
Yeah, I think that is a big benefit too. Is like when I thought of this, I first thought of like, oh, let me focus on the training modalities that I typically don't focus on. So I could focus on a lot more mobility work. Do I do mobility work? Yes, I do. But when I'm at the gym, I only have a certain amount of time that I can train. So do I spend 15 minutes doing mobility work and an hour training, or do I spend an hour of mobility work and 15 minutes training?
Right.
Obviously, I'd choose the training to supersede the mobility work as far as time goes. But now, maybe I can focus on more mobility. I can do yoga at home. And then you mentioned it, the most important thing that we can take away from this is maybe focusing on mental health too.
Yeah.
Spending time with your family, working on meditating, working on gratitude. The doctor who I have started seeing that I work with, his name is Dr. Pesic, and he works just outside of Cleveland. And he's a naturopathic, holistic doctor. And he just sent out an email about things that, and I'll actually forward you the email when we're done here because I'm sure you'd like to look at it. Things that we can do, and a lot of it was focused on, keeping a positive mindset. And I've listened to a lot of people talk about the coronavirus. Not that you can think this thing away, but I think that having anxiety over it is not the right path. Just because we're shutting everything down doesn't mean that it needs to cause anxiety. This is precautionary, and it's called being intelligent. I think that what they're doing is intelligent. I don't think it's like there's a need to panic. And they talk, I've listened to a lot of people talk about that, about the need to keep a level-headed mindset, and stress is going to suppress your immune system more than anything.
Even in a quote unquote, with the air quotes there, panic situation, the more level-headed you are and the more clear-minded you are about a panic situation, 9/11, we talked about that. The people that were centered and focused, the first responders, the ones that were task-oriented and goal-oriented to get things accomplished, were the ones that were successful.
That's why I have a bodybuilding coach, because I would think, speaking candidly, I would think that I have enough knowledge to be able to do it to myself because I've done it for other people. But I think that you begin to get overwhelmed with irrationalities when it's you. So like when it's me training myself and I'm good until the last couple of weeks, then I start to make irrational decisions and like, oh, I'm behind, I need to do so much more cardio, or oh, I'm flat, I need to have a refeed and eat 30 cheeseburgers or whatever. I need someone there to say, dude, and I've talked about it before, how much Austin was instrumental with my prep, and then when I worked with Jack Sullivan previously, both of them did a very good job of saying, dude, just chill. Like, I can't tell you the number of times that both of my prep coaches said, you need to just shut up and relax. Like, follow the plan. And then it's ironic because I find myself doing that to other people. Like, hey, just shut up and do what I tell you to do because you're going to be fine.
Yeah, I can.
So I think that, being level-headed about this whole thing is important. And it's difficult to do that because we've never been through it. I mean, this is definitely unprecedented. Like we said before, you never had mass closings of anything like this. But I think that we will be hopefully stronger because of this, both mentally, physically, and spiritually. And I guess that this will just play out how it's intended to.
Absolutely.
So, anything else you want to add before we close up this episode?
No, man, I think that's good. Just to recap, wash your hands.
Yes.
Hug your wife.
Yes.
Your kids. Be smart.
Yep.
And make good decisions. I'm not telling people that they shouldn't go to public places, but make a good decision. Make an educated decision, and trust it.
Yep.
Other than that, just keep hammering. I'm not going to steal Cameron Haynes' thing, but keep after it. Keep chasing your dreams regardless of what the situation is.
Yeah, hopefully this doesn't deter anybody from practicing, good mental health, good physical health, and obviously there are roadblocks in everything. I think to my wrestlers, especially my seniors who have worked literally their entire lives virtually. For this they've worked 18 years for the state tournament their senior year, and it may be gone.
Yep.
Right now we don't know much. We just know that it's postponed, but it could be gone. And I think specifically too about those who this is their last sport. We have multiple wrestlers on our team that are seniors that are going to wrestle in college. It's not going to be the same without your senior state tournament, but they are going to receive scholarships to go wrestle, and they're going to do it again. I think about the people that this is the last hoorah.
Right.
Like we have a wrestler like Danny, for example. He's one of our wrestlers, and he's our heavyweight guy, and he's going into the state tournament with aspirations of placing, which he could very well do. And after this, he's done with sports. He has the ability to wrestle in college. He has the ability to play football in college, but, for him, that's not in the cards. He wants to go into the workforce, and I think he wants to get into construction last I spoke with him. So this is kind of his last hoorah.
Right.
So this is his opportunity to go out with a bang, and your last game is taken from you, or your last match could be taken from you before you know it. I've seen it happen with injuries in senior years. So I guess that's kind of, another underlying theme here that we could speak of before we close shop is you never know when things are taken from you. Whether it's your job, whether it's, family members, whether it's, something superficial, like an injury that, could derail your bodybuilding career or whatever. So definitely try to take the time to cherish family, take the time to cherish every moment, and be positive, be healthy, be clean, and hopefully this corona is on the way out, or at least suppressing it until it's on the way out.
Yeah. Stick to the plan.
Yep.
If the closures and the delays make you have to deviate from your plan for a short period of time, remember the plan, and when it's time, get back after it.
Awesome. So with that, we have come to the end of another episode. This is episode 17.
Jeez.
Yeah, flies by, man. So I'm Charlie, and we have Justin here, and we are out.